White hat. White hat hackers are those guys that corporations actually hire on purpose, and the job description is essentially, please break our stuff. Their whole thing is to find the vulnerabilities before the bad guys do, document exactly how they got in, and hand over the report so the company can fix it. Penetration tester, ethical hacker, security researcher. The titles vary, but the concept is always the same. And look, the day-to-day isn't exactly cinematic. A lot of it is running scans, reading through thousands of lines of code, and spending a full week hunting for a misconfigured endpoint in a web app nobody's touched in a decade. It's a bit like being hired to pick someone's front door lock, and then writing a 12-page report about the lock. It might not sound like much, but bug bounty programs from Google, Microsoft, Apple, they've paid out millions to individual researchers who found the right flaw at the right time. So the ceiling is genuinely high if you're good. There is a catch though. The law, it turns out, is very specific about consent. What people constantly miss is that white hats know every trick in the black hat playbook, sometimes even better than the criminals. The only real difference is a signed contract that says they're allowed to use it, and that single piece of paper separates a six-figure salary from a federal indictment. Black hat. Black hats are what everyone pictures when they hear the word hacker, and for once, the stereotype isn't entirely wrong. Unauthorized access, stolen data, ransomware, financial fraud. If it made headlines and ruined someone's entire fiscal year, a black hat was probably involved. The skill gap within this group is enormous though. On one end, you've got genuinely brilliant people writing custom exploits from scratch, hunting 0 days in hardened systems, doing things that make security engineers genuinely nervous. On the other end, someone's buying a prepackaged malware kit off a dark web forum for $40 and pointing it at a dental clinic running Windows 7. Both get called black hats. The gap between them is roughly the same as between a Michelin star chef and someone who microwaves soup. Some ransomware operations run with full development teams, internal HR, and, this is completely real, customer support lines to help victims pay the ransom. REvil, Conti, DarkSide. These are organized criminal enterprises with revenue targets. One of them even had an affiliate program and actual revenue sharing, and it was all for ransomware. Gray hat. This is where it gets really interesting, because the ethics with gray hats are legitimately messy, and anyone who tells you otherwise hasn't thought about it hard enough. The pattern is usually this. A gray hat stumbles onto a vulnerability in a system they have zero permission to be in. They break in anyway, confirm the flaw is real, and then contact the organization to say, hey, you have a problem. Sometimes they ask for a bounty. Sometimes they just want credit. The intention is good, but the method is still illegal, because nobody invited them. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it all ends well. There's a responsible disclosure, bug bounty payout, maybe even a LinkedIn post thanking the researcher. Other times, however, the company calls their lawyers, and suddenly the person who found the flaw is the one in legal trouble. The frustrating part is that, even with all the law controversies, gray hats have been behind some of the most important security disclosures in history. They were the ones who found critical flaws in infrastructure that could have been catastrophic if the wrong people found them first. Which, by the way, is a lot more self-aware than the next type on this list. Script Kiddie. Every community has a bottom rung, and in hacking, it belongs to the Script Kiddie, which is exactly what it sounds like. Someone who runs tools and scripts built by other people with no real understanding of how any of it actually works. They don't write exploits, they download them. They find a walkthrough, grab something off GitHub, aim it at a target, and pray. When it works, they celebrate like they just won a championship. When it doesn't, they try the next tool on the list. Think of it as the hacking version of copying someone else's homework and then bragging about your grades, except somehow with more confidence. Even though the threat level is lower than the other categories, it's not zero, and that's what makes it particularly annoying. Automated tools are powerful regardless of who's holding them. A script kiddie running a DDoS tool they couldn't explain even if their life depended on it can still take down a small business's website and cause real damage. In the end, they might not be breaking into national infrastructure, but they can absolutely ruin a Tuesday for someone who didn't deserve it. The thing is though, a huge chunk of legitimate security professionals started exactly here. Ran tools they didn't understand, got curious, then started actually learning. Hacktivist. These hackers are using the exact same techniques as black hats, but money has nothing to do with it. For hacktivists, the hack is the message. Deface a government website, leak internal documents, take down a corporation's servers. It's a protest, except instead of standing outside with a sign, you're inside their database, and the sign is their own embarrassing emails. Anonymous is the obvious reference point. The decentralized collective that has gone after Scientology, ISIS, various governments, law enforcement agencies, and seemingly whoever else caught their attention on a given afternoon. The ideology shifts. The methods don't. Here's where it gets philosophically tricky though, because not all hacktivist targets are equal. When someone leaks documents exposing genuine corporate fraud, a lot of people cheer and call it whistleblowing. When someone takes down a hospital's website over a political grievance, the conversation changes pretty fast. The line between righteous exposure and reckless damage entirely depends on what was targeted, why, and who's doing the judging. To make matters worse, there's rarely any consensus. What genuinely sets hacktivists apart from every other type is that they want to be known. They want an audience because without it, the whole point disappears. It's one of the only parts of the hacking world where the ego is the entire strategy. State hacker. State-sponsored hackers are operating on a completely different level. While a criminal wants a quick score, a state hacker will spend as much as 2 years inside a target network, moving slowly through systems, mapping infrastructure, reading communications, learning everything there is to learn. And they do all of this without triggering a single alert. Sometimes the objective is just to watch, quietly, for years, which is, at least in a way, more disturbing than outright theft. Every major power has dedicated units doing versions of this right now. Russia's Sandworm, China's APT-41, North Korea's Lazarus Group. These are government employees with salaries, objectives, and, presumably, performance reviews. The battlefield is invisible, the damage is deniable, and most of it is happening in the background of everything else all the time. And the truly unsettling part? The attacks you hear about are just the ones that got caught. One of the great examples is Stuxnet, a piece of malware so precise it physically destroyed Iranian nuclear centrifuges, making them spin at the wrong speed while reporting perfectly normal operation to every monitoring system. It had already done its job before the world knew it existed. It was the moment the world realized that a well-written piece of software could do what an airstrike couldn't, and leave absolutely no trace behind. Insider. Every other type on this list is trying to fight their way in from the outside. The insider is already in. They have been in, probably for years. These people are the very reason security folk lose sleep. You can build the most airtight perimeter defense imaginable, layer it with monitoring and encryption and zero-trust architecture, and none of it matters if a trusted employee with legitimate credentials decides today is the day. The motivations cover a wide range. Insiders can make great money selling access or data to competitors or criminal groups, for example. Or ideology, with the Snowden case being the most famous example. You know, that one time a contractor walked out with an estimated 1.5 million classified NSA documents because he believed the public had a right to know. But there is also rage. Think, a disgruntled employee who got fired on a Friday. IT didn't revoke access until the following Thursday, and a lot happened in between. Studies suggest that roughly 60% of insider attacks happen within 30 days of an employee's resignation or termination. So if your offboarding checklist is a sticky note that says change the passwords, you have a problem. Detection, even with the sticky note, is quite hard because the behavior looks completely normal. The anomalies are subtle, and by the time they're obvious enough to flag, the damage is usually already done. Scammer. Technically, the scammer barely qualifies as a hacker at all, and that is precisely what makes them dangerous. Instead of exploiting software vulnerabilities, they're exploiting people. And people, as it turns out, are dramatically easier to compromise than most enterprise security systems. Just think about it. Your account has been suspended. Unusual activity detected. You are the beneficiary of an unclaimed fortune. These techniques have existed for decades, and they still work. No matter how smart the people get, the execution gets more sophisticated than that. Modern phishing emails look exactly like a message from your bank, or an IT security alert, or your CEO asking you to urgently wire funds before the end of the business day. In fact, business email compromise, where someone impersonates an executive and redirects a payment, has cost companies tens of billions of dollars over the past decade. What's worse, you don't even have to be tech savvy. All it takes is a convincing email address and a deadline that creates enough panic to short-circuit critical thinking. It all lands on the fact that you can't patch human psychology. Security training and awareness campaigns help, sure, but under the right pressure with the right message, even smart and careful people will fall for it. Scammers know this, so they send the same email to 100,000 people and wait. The math does the rest.